Hi, and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
Hey, it is insert time here, and you are listening to Z Games, Insert Nation here's most beloved gaming radio station.
Show, you mean?
Show, that's what we are.
I wish we were a station.
If only we were. Well, that's step 2, right, on our world domination plan. That's Ray. Ray's in here.
Good evening. Or morning. Insert time here.
Yes. Jody. Jody's here as well.
Hello. Insert greeting here.
That's a nice greeting. I didn't know you felt that way about me. And I'm Lee, and we have gaming things to talk to you.
We're not phoning this show in at all, by the way.
Not at all.
This is like full 110% Z Games action.
Yes. Dear listener, we have an amazing show for you coming up, so you should keep listening to it. Ray, what are we listening to?
Well, we're going to be hearing some first impressions of Vertiginous Golf, which is an indie game, some sort of cyberpunk golf game. Jody's going to tell us all about that.
Yep, it's golf in the sky.
Fantastic.
Sky Golf.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hear from David and Drew, who work at a company called IRL Shooter. It's a real-life zombie game.
Does it have real zombies?
Yes. Well, as real as they come.
So, is voodoo involved?
No, paid actors.
Yes. But live rounds?
No live rounds.
No.
Yeah. At least not at this stage in the development.
All right.
Go figure. We'll also be hearing from Jacob Zamalek, who is a developer at CD Projekt Red. He's going to be talking all about The Witcher 3.
I'm so excited for that interview.
But first, shall we get into the week in news headlines with Mr. Jody McGregor?
Alrighty. Sony has confirmed a restructuring of Santa Monica Studios. The following statement was given. SCEA can confirm that we have completed a reduction in workforce at Santa Monica Studio. This is a result of a cycle of resource realignment against priority growth areas within SCE Worldwide Studios. We do not take these decisions lightly. However, sometimes it is necessary to make changes to better serve the future projects of the studio. We have offered outplacement services and severance packages to ease transition for those impacted. The studio, best known for developing the God of War games, also had an unannounced title in development that has been cancelled as a result. Gearbox Software is suing 3D Realms over a title called Duke Nukem Mass Destruction. Gearbox's suit states that 3D Realms does not legally have the right to release the game, which was unveiled in a teaser last month. A statement by Gearbox read, apparently after selling its Duke Nukem IP rights to Gearbox in 2010, 3D Realms sought to privately convince others that the sale never happened. The mountain of problems subsequently uncovered by Gearbox cannot be captured in this single pleading.
The rest of this suit is such a fun read. Because it's a massive, it's a shit fight between two friends, and the language of the suit displays that. There seems to be a lot of remorse in it. People are like, Gearbox is sorry that it has come to this. It was such good pals with 3D Realms, and then they totally went and did this behind our backs. I cannot believe it. It's an ongoing saga.
It's like a divorce proceeding. It's just a really messy divorce.
Yeah. It's delicious to watch, actually. I want it to keep going.
Terrible person.
I know, but I don't really have any investment in either company,
No, or the game, or the property.
That's it,
It's sensible, yeah.
So this is the most entertainment that Duke Nukem, or in fact Gearbox, have ever provided me.
Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are set to direct a film documenting the infamous console rivalry between Sega and Nintendo. Sony will distribute the film, which does not have a release date as of yet.
Looking forward to this one. I think that's a good subject for a documentary, for sure.
Yeah, it's a story that hasn't really been told objectively.
Yeah. So is it going to be a documentary, or is it going to be, is it a dramatization?
We don't have that many details yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of documentary.
I would rather a dramatization.
Yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
With Seth Rogen as Sonic.
Yes. Yeah. And the fact that Sony are distributing it is even better to me, just to further put the boot in both companies. Yeah.
Spoilers, I think Nintendo won.
Did they? Only temporarily.
Yeah, but you know how like these musician biopics sort of end at like a really happy time in their life?
Yeah.
And then there's like a sort of written epilogue.
Yeah,
it could be like that. It could end in like 2006, right after the launch of the Wii, and then that's a really happy ending.
Well, no, I assume it's going to be about the 90s.
Mm.
Otherwise, Sega is going to vanish halfway through. It's going to be about the Sega Master System 2 and the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo and the N64, and then it will stop.
God, I hope they get someone good to play Sega Mega Drive. I want, like a Kenneth Branagh for the role of Sega Mega Drive.
Right.
I think he's got the the gravitas for it. He can carry it. Who do you want to see play Super Nintendo, Jody?
James Franco.
James Franco. I mean, he's worked with Seth Rogen, I guess. Yeah. Razor. Who would you like to see play Game Boy?
Game Boy?
Yeah.
You know that dude from Austin Powers?
What, Mike Myers?
The guy who plays Mini-Me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Troy
Werner.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And maybe get Linda Cardellini to come in and she can be Master System. There's so many good roles here. Really meaty roles for a good actor.
And Lee, you have one final piece of news to deliver?
Yes, speaking of meaty roles for a good actor, Kiefer Sutherland has, in an interview, he has... Yeah, you liked that one, didn't you, Ray? Yeah. He has leaked the existence of a new Mortal Kombat game that he is involved in some fashion. We kind of suspected one was in the works because there's a new Mortal Kombat movie coming out, but now we know that there is a game that Kiefer Sutherland, who is doing the new voice of Solid Snake for the new Metal Gear Solid game, is also involved in that. And who would you like to see him play? Is Super Nintendo a character in Mortal Kombat as well, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Kiefer Sutherland and Mortal Kombat. Could it be the match made in heaven?
I say yes.
Yes, could be. Yeah, it's interesting that he's getting into the voice acting game for video games, so to speak.
Yep. Well, his face might age, but, his voice is still that of a young man. Yeah.
Is it?
Well, the kind of grizzled young man that video game players like.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can play a brown-haired white guy with a shaved head like anything.
Yeah.
He can do that like anybody's business.
Yeah, all he has to do is get a haircut. So looking forward to Kiefer Sutherland as Sonya Blade in new Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 10, I believe it will be.
Very cool.
You are listening to Z Games, heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network.
Ray, on the weekend you interviewed David and Drew of IRL Shooter about their possible campaign, which they're engaged in at the moment with their IRL Shooter project, which is a real-world zombie fighting scenario thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
They're asking for $1 million. So, let's go ahead and hear that interview now. If you're a fan of horror games, but you're finding that games like Slender Man, Resident Evil, and Silent Hill are too tame, then you'll want to pay attention to what our next guests have to say. Andrew and Drew work at a company called IRL Shooter, which specialise in bringing the terror of a zombie plague into reality. Patient Zero Melbourne was the most successful crowdfunding venture in Australian history, and they've just launched a new campaign to bring Patient Zero to Sydney. David and Drew, thanks very much for speaking with us. What is Patient Zero?
Well, it's a live-action video game, so it draws on the tropes from horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill for inspiration, but it also, being a first-person shooter, it's heavily combat-based like a Call of Duty or Battlefield type scenario as well.
So it's a zombie scenario, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the video games that Drew just talked about, that we referenced them, that we drew on to create this, it's all the key elements of your favourite horror-based games and your favourite first-person shooter games, as well as your favourite horror movies, but it's a live-action, real-life event. So you become the player in a real building with a realistic weapon, with your real people around you. It's an immersive simulation that's about as close to real world as we can create.
So the zombies are all actors with full zombie makeup and get-up. How many zombies do you have on the set there?
Well, no, that's a bit of a trade secret. We have enough. The cast and crew that work on the day and the way that the playing arena is built and lit, it creates a sense that there is constant threat and danger to the players. Our zombies do respawn, so just because they're down and you've left a room doesn't mean that they haven't respawned behind you and could be chasing you afterwards. So from a player's point of view, you're constantly under threat of an infected attack.
Now, I read something about these pain belts that you're planning on introducing into the game. Can you tell me more about that?
Oh, yeah, it's more than just a plan. This is a reality. See, we've already run one game, the Patient Zero in Melbourne. We had over 6,000 players that came through. And one of the many things that we learned from that experience is that the infrared technology that we use, although it means we can create a great scoring system, what infrared technology doesn't give you is the sense of being hit. Paintball, you know when you've been hit because you feel it. We looked around for a type of technology that could simulate a hit or a health impact that the players will suffer, either from a zombie bite or from friendly fire or from hostile fire. We've come up with the pain belt. It's an optional extra that players can choose to add to their loadout. It's worn over the clothing, and when the player suffers health damage, either from a zombie bite or from fire, either friendly or hostile, they will get an electric shock. There's different levels of shocks that you can get, starting off at a little tickle, a bit of a rumble, all the way up to level 5, which stings like an absolute bitch. You only need to be hit by that once to really not want it to happen again. So what we find in testing this is that it really dramatically changes how players play the game. They're a lot less gung-ho, they're a lot more stealthy, a lot more thoughtful and careful in how you play, because you really don't want to get hurt or hit when you're wearing the pain belt.
I can imagine it would bring an extra element of realism to the game, but have you finding that a lot of players are willing to sign up for pain?
Well, absolutely. We haven't run a full game with the pain belt in operation yet, but from our ticket sales for the Sydney game, and from the interest that we've had from people coming into the office and trying it out, I think half the players that we've had direct contact with are verbally keen to try it. Whether that translates into an actual tryout, it's an extra sense of realism that you get. It's there for players who want it, and that's why we said optional extra. It's not mandatory.
The whole Patient Zero experience sounds really, really intense. Have any players found it too intense?
Yeah. In the Melbourne event, we had 8 players that voluntarily ended the game due to fear. Like, to be honest, I loved it every time they did it, and was bitterly disappointed that it was only 8 people.
Correct. And we are definitely going to beat that number for our next game. Look, the immersive environment, I mean, that's all of your senses are immersed. What you see, what you hear, what you feel, quite often what you smell, all of your senses are completely immersed in the world that we create inside the playing arena. And for some people, that was too much.
Playing horror games and watching horror movies is one thing, but having the zombies there in front of you, just chasing up to you, must be extremely intense. What's the most bizarre reaction you've ever had from a player?
You can never really tell who's going to behave what way. It's like once people get scared, that's when logic tends to go out the window. We've had a bunch of teams that were really gung-ho and took it really seriously and they moved through rooms as a team should. And then they hit a set piece where the horde was attacking them, and you just watched the teamwork just disintegrate.
Everything fell apart.
As
fabulous.
As survival kicked in.
There are certain set pieces that are created within the game that are designed to fragment teams and to really put the players under immense stress and pressure at that particular moment. And it's at those moments when, as Drew was saying, the team tactics fall apart and personal fight and flight kicks in. There was one particular section where the players had to escape through a tunnel in the wall. The roller door they were expecting to use wouldn't work, and they had to leave through a small hatch. It was only one person at a time. And watching these big grown men fighting over each other, pushing each other out of the way to get through the tunnel first, was quite exceptional. And then there was one team where they had a small female team member in the team, and while the guys were fighting each other to try and get through the tunnel, she pushed them out of the way and beat them to it. And that was lovely. I mean, it's a game environment, but it becomes so real that people's true nature and true fight and flight kicks in, and it's lovely. Watching grown men scream and jump when a 4'0" actor jumps out and goes rah at them it's a joy to behold. It really is.
I can imagine. You're asking $1 million to launch Patient Zero in Sydney, which is, I believe, one of the most ambitious crowdfunding projects ever launched. How's the campaign progressing so far?
Look, to be honest, we're about 23 days at the moment from when we're talking about it now, out from the campaign ending, and we're about 12%.
Yeah,
12% of target. So we still have a long way to go. It is an ambitious target. And it's a new city for us. It's a new market. We don't have boots on the ground. We don't have an established fan base in Sydney. We need that. We need the money to put on the game. For the Melbourne game, we only asked for a small target up front, just to get us going, just to start the ball rolling. But obviously that target was massively exceeded. But that's still $250,000 that we raised on Possible for Melbourne was still only a quarter of what less than a quarter of what we needed to actually put on the game. So this time, rather than asking for a small amount and then trying to raise the money later on, we've made the decision to raise the lion's share of the money up front so that we knew that we would have the ability to actually put on an absolutely kick-ass event for our next game.
Guys, best of luck for this Patient Zero Sydney. Where can we go to get more information about Patient Zero?
Possible.com/IRL Shooter is where you can pledge. And if you just want information about IRL Shooter in general, just IRLshooter.com would be your best bet.
And of course, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter as well, and Instagram. I'm pretty sure if you Google IRL Shooter, then you'll find us.
Awesome. David and Andrew, thank you so much for speaking with Zed Games today.
No worries, man. That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the time.
Welcome back to Zed Games on Triple Z 102.1 FM. Next up, we're going to hear a pre-recorded interview thanks to our friends down in Sydney. Now, there's a show down there called Big Head Mode. They're Australia's second gaming radio program.
Second greatest, second most handsome.
That's
our proteges.
They're so close.
Our offspring.
So, rather than attempt to destroy them, we've teamed up with them.
Yeah.
And we are now utilizing their resources. So
let them know that was an act of mercy as well.
So they've kindly provided for us an interview with Jacob Zamalek, who's a developer at CD Projekt Red, who are, of course, the developers of the upcoming Witcher 3, which we are very excited about.
Yeah, salivating right now.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to chuck that on, and I hope you guys enjoy it along with us.
You've got The Witcher 3 coming out shortly, and it was really well received at E3, and there's a lot of press specifically about this game. What's the feeling that you have here at CD Projekt Red working on something with this sort of global media?
Yeah, well, of course there's a lot of pressure because we feel that the game is anticipated, and we enjoy that a lot, and we really like that what we've shown has raised and aroused so much interest and excitement, and we will do our best to live up to the expectation. But of course it is a pressure, knowing that so many people are interested in the product and they want it to be best possible quality, and this is what we want as well. So on one hand is of course the pressure, but overwhelmingly it's a great pleasure because I have the feeling that we're working on an amazing game, and we are not making compromises. We're working on a game we ourselves would like to play, and so far it's turning out great. So what we showed on the E3 conference was in-game footage showing one of the quests we were working on, and the other quests that are currently being made as the game nears the release date are just as good or maybe better. So I'm really excited that I'm here and I'm part of the team that makes it happen.
Many people are sort of saying this may change the way that we look at RPGs because it's entirely non-linear story playing, and you have the quest system is going to be very different to other Witcher games as well as other RPGs. Sure. Does that add an extra sense of challenge or purpose?
No, it is a great challenge, and I think that the part that is most challenging is that we are trying to combine an open world, a huge open world, with a very complex storyline, and this is something that I think has been rarely even tried to combine these two elements. Most of computer RPG games offer either a large world but with a simple storyline, and the main fun is in exploring and crafting your hero the way you like it. And other games offer intense experience, and then we are working really hard to combine these two elements into one and to make it work seamlessly. So this is a great challenge, and there's a lot of troubles that we encounter as we do it. But I think we are doing a good job of dealing with them and finding ways around problems and solving them. So I think this will be a milestone in computer RPGs, and I do hope that it will change the way we think about them and the expectations we have about them.
There's already a lot of benchmark fantasy RPGs. You know, for example, you have the open world play of Skyrim,
sure,
as well as you have deep storytelling in, say, the Dragon Age games by BioWare. So, how are you making The Witcher sort of stand apart from these existing titles?
Well, first of all, it combines the two into one, and that's, I think, new and exciting, and I'm sure the players will really like it. We are crafting a really complex and mature story, and we're treating our NPCs seriously. They're not just some, information posts that the character comes over to talk about the next quest. They have their own ambitions. They have their own aims, and they are always thinking something other than what to say to the main character, and then how to aid him in his brave quests. So we are working really hard on creating a world which is filled with characters that you will remember and that you will be intrigued by. And the other thing is that The Witcher is a very multi-layered narrative, and in a way it harks back to the old school RPGs from the late 1990s and early 2000s, in that there is a main storyline which you can follow, but there's a lot of additional story arcs that are accessible to you, and if you find them intriguing and you want to learn more about them, there's nothing stopping you from talking about to NPCs about stuff that is not really essential for you to complete the main storyline, but can give you a lot of information about their motivations, their history, what was happening behind the scenes, what might happen in the future, and so on. So there's a great feeling of richness that we want to keep, because that's something I think we achieved pretty neatly in The Witcher 2 and transferred to this huge open world. So that's something that we are striving to achieve, and so far it's working out pretty nicely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And in terms of your involvement as sort of, as you described it earlier, as sort of this sort of second rung of story writing, it's like, how are you involved specifically?
Okay, so we, the other writers, we are doing all the nitty-gritty daily work, like designing the quests and writing the dialogues and writing in-game documents, books, and etc. So basically everything that you see in the game. So my responsibilities are quite broad, and there's everything that's written within the game and that you can read or write or listen to is probably either my doing or one of my colleagues.
The interesting things about The Witcher is that in a lot of other RPGs, you're sort of given the option to really shape your character. Particularly in open world RPGs, you can change your play style. You can even create how the character looks, for example.
Sure.
But in The Witcher, you're given this. You've got Geralt, and he has a very distinct sort of character, and he has this strong sense of purpose. So, how do you balance the idea of freedom with the idea of purpose for the game?
So we are making games with a predetermined character, and it is very different from playing with a character you can create yourself, and where you have the total freedom, whether it's an elf or a dwarf, whether it's a mage or barbarian. So Geralt is a particular person with a particular character. So of course you don't have total freedom in what to do, because there are some things that Geralt would never consider doing. But even within the constraints of his character and experience, there is a lot of choices and decisions to make. And one of the key characteristics of the Witcher saga, on which the games are based, is that Geralt, even though he tries to be neutral and he tries just to lead his own normal life, he faces situations in which he cannot be neutral, and he has to make a decision. And this is something that we implemented in both The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2, and we are certainly sticking to it in The Witcher 3, so that you as a player will have to make lots of decisions. Some of them will seem very important, and some of them may seem unimportant but might actually lead to some unforeseen consequences. So there's a lot of that. So of course Geralt will behave in certain ways and he won't in others. So we're forcing the player to identify themselves with this particular hero. But of course, I think each playthrough creates a slightly different girl. So I know it's a subtle. These are subtle differences, but I think that there's actually a lot that you can influence and do playing Geralt of Rivia. And when it comes to his appearances or his fighting styles, then you have, of course, a lot of freedom there, because you can, decide which armor he wears, what's his hairdo, and whether you want to be a great sword fighter or whether you want to be a mage and then cast signs. So gameplay-wise, there's a lot of freedom, but narratively, of course, it is constrained by the character whose story we're telling.
One of the obvious points about The Witcher is it's based on this very famous series of books, and for The Witcher 1 and 2, the games have closely followed the plots of those stories, and it never feels like they're making really big departures. It doesn't feel like they're messing around with those books. How important is it for you as a writer to stay within this world like of Andrzej Sapkowski?
Yeah. Well, since it's such a great world and it's so immersive and fascinating, we want to keep as much of it as we can. So when it comes to particular characters that we take from the saga, including Geralt, we're trying to be as faithful to the original as it is humanly possible, or as it is possible within the constraints of the medium you're working in, because of course games are different than books in many ways. But we have a lot of freedom in a way that our games are not remakes of stories told in the saga and the books. We are picking up after where Andrzej Sapkowski left, so we are free to carry on the story as we like it. But of course, we're trying to make it coherent. So politically or economically, the Witcher games are very closely connected to the Witcher saga, and there's no line after which people start behaving differently, or the realms that Andrzej Sapkowski describes, change. So we're trying to stick to that. However, there's a lot of work that we have to do to translate the books into the game, because Andrzej Sapkowski, of course, created the world in which the action takes place, but reading a book is very different to seeing these places yourself. And Andrzej Sapkowski describes a particular city in a few sentences. But if you are to make a game in which this city appears, then of course we have to spend much more time just designing the city and thinking how it feels like, what should be in it and what shouldn't be in it, and what kind of people should live there, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of gaps that we have to fill in, but we're always trying to be as faithful to the original idea behind the Witcher universe as it is possible. The one thing I would like to add is that we really value our fans and customers' opinions. So if you or any of your listeners will at one point think that, I think it would be great if something happened in The Witcher 3, or I played The Witcher 2 and I really liked or disliked this one, please let us know by writing on our forum or sending emails, and we really do consider that, because we really want to make a game which will be amazing, and just considering the opinions of people who play these games is extremely important to us. So do write to us.
Well, I've always thought it would be great if there was a ship captain called Carlo. So if you want to put in a ship captain called Carlo, see what you can do.
Okay, if I'll have opportunities to name one of them, I'll
that'd be fun. Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks. And thanks so much for meeting with us.
It's a pleasure. It's great to be able to spread the word about the game. So thanks for coming over.
You are listening to Z Games. Jody, this is a video game radio show.
Yes, it is.
You have been playing a video game that earlier our esteemed leader Razor described incorrectly as Cyberpunk Golf. For shame, Razor.
Yeah, a lot of shame over here.
Yeah.
I regret the error.
You should. I expect that there will be a letter campaign and we will be inundated with complaints.
What about a full-page ad in The Australian?
Good start.
Yeah, good start, okay.
Skywriting as well. Jody, vertiginous golf.
Is golf with a twist. So you were right, Ray, that it is golf only...
He got half of it right.
Yeah, it's golf made not boring, which is a good start with the golf game. So what they've done is taken golf and moved it a kilometre upwards. So you're playing golf on platforms in the sky instead of whacking a ball down the green.
But Jody, I don't understand. How can golf be played in the sky?
Well, there's no ground in the sky, right?
Yeah. So what happens when you get a hole in one? Does it fall to the earth?
Yeah. And then you get a new ball and you send it flying off again.
So it's golf.
It's golf, but on floating platforms and islands, and actually quite a lot of rugs that just happen to be in the sky. Whoever designed this game really likes rugs, but also floating greenhouses, and sometimes there are fans that keep your ball levitating and other things, just a variety of strange objects that you could put in the clouds and then hop a golf ball across.
Do you think this is actually some kind of secret BioShock Infinite spin-off?
No, but I knew that one of you nerds was going to say that. Yeah, it does.
That's because we're best friends.
Yes. It does look like this is what the people from BioShock Infinite do in their spare time. Those rich white people playing their sky golf. This is what it would look like.
And now
it's all very brass and very shiny. There's a lot of glass everywhere.
So now you are one of those rich white people playing sky golf.
Yeah, although there's a weird backstory to it, which it doesn't need, but somebody put in there anyway, where you're actually like a poor worker drone in this bizarre alternate history where the industrial era sort of covered the world in smog, and there's this sort of Victorian tone to everything, and the nobles create this game, which the poor people then play to keep themselves distracted when they're not working at crappy factories. So you're actually some slave worker drone playing virtual sky golf. They plug you into a machine, and you get to imagine that you're up in the sky, which is like completely irrelevant to the actual game, and yet it's there. You open the game and you're walking down the street, and you have to walk into the vertiginous golf store and choose your course and sit down in your plush little chair and then get mind warped up into the sky.
That seems like a lot of effort to go to.
Yes.
Those resources could have gone into vertiginous golf.
Yes. Perhaps they could have. But once you actually get up into the sky, you're smacking the ball across, like there will be loop-de-loops and little mazes that you have to go over, and the platforms have levels on them, and you have to like work your way up and down the levels. There are things that move, so you have to wait until the exact right moment to send your golf ball flying off, and then some of the platforms have travelators on them. So you hit them, and then it'll fling you off into another direction, and then possibly into a pipe, which shoots you to the other side of this insane golf course.
Are there water features?
There are. There are waterfalls and also just sort of big things with water on them, which stops your ball dead as soon as you hit them. There are no actual lakes in the sky.
No.
It's more just a thing that stops your ball stone dead when you hit it. Whereas like a rug, you can get a nice spin off a rug in the sky.
Okay. This sky rug, is it a magic carpet, perhaps?
Maybe, but they just sort of look like plush English rugs.
Okay.
And they're everywhere.
So they don't have like tassels on the corners that could also double as hands or feet?
No, they do not look like anything Aladdin would fly. No. Sorry.
Okay. Is it fun to play sky golf?
Sometimes.
Okay.
But not always.
I see.
It can also be quite frustrating. It's very hard to tell where you're supposed to be aiming the ball, because you're not just whacking it down the green, but from platform to platform, and sometimes there are multiple ways to go, and it's not very well signposted, so you do get easily confused. There is a neat idea in that there's a mechanical hummingbird that you have as like your little caddy, and you can possess this gold flying hummingbird and fly around to sort of map out where you're going to go.
I like everything that you just said there.
It's a brilliant idea, but actually controlling this little flappy hummingbird is kind of frustrating.
You have to like press the screen to make him flap to avoid the pipes.
No, you have to like use the left and right mouse button to get him to go up and down, and then the WASD keys to move backwards and forwards.
Right.
And it just feels weird and wrong, and he's got like a little field of view, so you're not actually getting the full picture, and it doesn't help you as much as it should, and you really need help because it's just such a weird thing to be doing. Yeah.
So I know this is a early access game. It's still in beta, right?
Yes, it's not finished yet, and it does feel like it. I think that things like the bird controlling weirdly are exactly the kinds of things they will fix when it's finally released properly.
How about the ball physics? I mean, that must be really important for a golf game.
Oh man, the listeners right now, they are rubbing their hands together. Ball physics. Cannot wait to hear this. Go on, Jody.
Yes, the golf ball does fly around crazily. Like, there are platforms that just have fans on them that push the ball upwards, and if you aim it right over them, you can go insane distances. But there's no actual guide to where you're going to smack the ball. There are only two clubs, right? There's the putter and the chipper, and the chipper sends it flying upwards. But in other golf games that I've played, you have sort of like an arc that shows you where the chipper's going to go, and you can aim it, and then you hold down the button to give it the amount of force and whack it off. But you don't have one of those in this. You just have to guess. And that's really hard, and it takes a very long time to learn how much force is enough to get it going the right distance. And if you go the wrong distance, you can't just, another try. You fall off out of the sky, and you have to go back to where you were and start again. And then you do that a lot, over and over again.
Maybe this is something that could be finished by the final release of the game.
I hope so. I hope so. That's my main gripe with it, is that chipping it is really just guesswork. I've been playing it for a pretty long time, and I'm still like, it takes me 40 shots to actually get to the goal, and the par's 5.
Well, it sounds like a really good concept to me. Actually, I'm a pretty big fan of golf games.
And the sky.
Yeah. So this sounds like it could be right up my alley. But it is far too early to tell how this game is going to be upon launch.
Yeah, I'm going to, as they update it, I'm going to go back to it and try out. They want to add something like 45 different holes. At the moment, there are like 9, so it's going to change a fair bit.
That's Vertiginous Golf, which you can grab on Steam if you want to check it out early, right?
Yeah, they're releasing it on early access this month. So in a couple of days, you'll be able to get it off Steam.
And that's going to bring us to the close of this week's edition of Z Games, guys. As usual, thanks very much for listening. But Lee, would you like to tell us and all the listeners where we can go to get our podcast online in case they missed any of the goodies this week?
Heck yes, I will. You just need to search for Z Games AU on iTunes, correct?
Yes.
And then you can catch us on Facebook. We are facebook.com/ZGamesAU. And we are also on Twitter at @ZGamesAU.
But there must be some kind of blog as well.
Oh, we have a blog as well. Yes, it's zgames.something.com.au.
ZGamesAU.net.
Ah, damn it. So close. I got all the others. I've only been doing this for 4 years.
You were on a roll.
Yeah.
And what's your personal email address, Lee?
Nice try, identity thief.
All right, we'll catch you next week, guys.
Thanks for listening. This has been Z Games, recorded live in Brisbane on 4ZZZ and heard nationally thanks to the Community Radio Network. For more information on the show and to join the Z Games community, head to our website, zgamesau.net. That's spelt Z-E-D, or send us an email at contact@zgamesau.net. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Z Games is produced with the assistance of the Community Broadcasting Foundation.